Ever since Meghan decided to drop that bloody twerking video, which I thought I'd never hear the end of, the surrogacy rumors surrounding Meghan's pregnancies, which have already been swirling about for a few years now, hit critical levels, tornado levels, rather than just merely flying about. And as I've said before in my recent video, The Favorite, this was, of course, by no means an accident. It was by design. I do want to make clear that I have always held my own opinions and beliefs about her pregnancies, namely that she was pregnant. However, obviously this video has raised alarm bells, including in my own mind. I do want to say though, that my opinion is entirely irrelevant because I don't know the truth, just like everyone else out there. We weren't there. So what I thought we could do today is, rather than speculate on what is and what isn't, we could actually just look at the law, specifically in the UK, but also in California, surrounding surrogacy and how it may affect the standing or legitimacy of Meghan's two children and their place in the line of succession. I'm not sure if anyone else has done this before. I certainly haven't seen this topic covered from a strictly legal perspective. So perhaps this might give us a clearer idea on how easy or difficult, depending on the laws, it would be for someone in Meghan and Harry's shoes to pull off, if true, one of the greatest cons and cover-ups in royal history. There are a few pieces of legislation that are relevant to this topic in addition to common law. To start off with, let's have a look at the Surrogacy Arrangements Act of 1985. This act defines surrogacy, which I don't think we need to use the act to understand what it is, but the definition can be found in Section 1 of the act, along with other pertinent definitions such as surrogate mother. In the UK and in the US as well, and I guess all over the world, there are two forms of surrogacy. There is a partial surrogacy, where the biological mother is artificially inseminated, and then there is a full surrogacy, where the mother has no genetic link to the child whatsoever. She is simply, I suppose, the carrier. And that is the particular type of surrogacy that people are alleging Meghan Markle and Harry have undertaken. Interestingly, there is no centralized data collection for surrogate pregnancies and births in the UK. So all the information that you can get is sourced from parental order applications, because in the UK, get this, and this is incredibly important when it comes to Meghan and Harry and the standing of their children in the line of succession. The surrogate mother, by law, is the legal mother of the child. And this remains so until the intended parents, being Meghan and Harry in this instance, formally apply to take custody of the child through a parental order. And to make matters even more complicated, if the surrogate mother has a partner, he would be considered the next parent, the second parent. And this can be found in the Human Fertilization and Embryology Act of 2008. So this is the second pertinent piece of legislation that applies in this case. Now, so far, things appear to be legal. However, there is a catch in the UK, and this is completely disregarding the royalty aspect. We're going to get to that. Surrogacy arrangement cannot be commercial by nature. So aside from paying for the surrogate's reasonable expenses, let's say medical bills, perhaps seeking independent legal advice, no one is allowed to profit out of this in the UK. It's also an offense to advertise looking for a surrogate or to offer one's services as a surrogate. That's not to say that non-for-profit surrogacy organizations don't exist. They do, but there's the key term, not for profit. And while they're allowed to advertise their services, they're not allowed to advertise a particular surrogate or ask for one. Now that we have a general understanding of surrogacy laws in the UK, what is and what is not allowed, and most importantly, who the biological parent is, a according to the law, let's talk about the line of succession. Once again, numerous pieces of legislation come into play. There is the Bill of Rights of 1689. The Bill of Rights covers matters far beyond the line of succession, but it does affirm the necessity of heirs to the throne being Protestant. There is the Act of Settlement of 1701, which is the statute that established the succession to the British throne, ensuring that only Protestants could inherit it and that only heirs of the body, particularly Princess Sophia's body, could inherit the throne. There's also the Succession to the Crown Act of 2013, which officially made the gender of a child irrelevant. So a boy would not automatically outrank a girl as of the 28th of October 2011, which is really recent when you think about it. But hey, better late than never. When it comes to the heirs of the body matter, the Succession to the Crown Act in particular, which is the most recent act, is entirely silent on the matter. And this is despite the fact that in 2013, during a debate on the Succession to the Crown bill, there was a move to insert a clause that specified that only heirs of the body can inherit the crown. However, the amendment was withdrawn. There was this entire debate I read through regarding the topic, and they basically all agreed that the common law is quite clear when it comes to the requirement of a natural birth to be included in the line of succession, in addition to a particular section in the Human Fertilization and Embryology Act. Man, that's a mouthful. Is there a short form version of that? Anywho, Section 48.7 of that act, I'll call it the Embryology Act, I think, clearly states that nothing in the act regarding surrogacy or artificial insemination affects the succession to any dignity or title of honor or renders any person capable of succeeding to or transmitting a right to succeed to any such dignity or title. And so the way I read it is, that's an entirely separate matter. Whatever we're saying here doesn't impact what the established laws, norms, precedents are in relation to the succession of titles. And one would assume that would cover inheriting the throne, the line of succession. And so the conclusion of that debate was basically this amendment to clarify only heirs of the body can be in the line of succession is moot because the legal stance is already clear. In terms of California, I'm sure none of you would be surprised to learn that it is the most surrogacy-friendly state in the entirety of the US. There you can have commercial agreements, you can basically profit out of it, and the carrier, the surrogate, isn't automatically considered the mother. So the intended parents can move to be the legal parents of the child before it's even born. California also enables parties to draw up terms and conditions in enforceable contracts, which is also different from the UK because as it stands, the surrogate mother's wishes take priority over anything that may be written down in a contract. In case you're wondering, the relevant legislation that covers surrogacy in California can be found in the Family Code sections 7960 to 7962. There you'll find definitions and legally enforceable agreement requirements and basically the entire gamut. As to the question of whether they can pull it off in California, yes, at least a lot more easily than they would have been able to in the UK. However, even if they use the surrogate in the US, the laws pertaining to the line of succession in the UK still apply to their children. And so it wouldn't bypass the whole risk of endangering her children's standing in the line of succession. So, having considered everything we just covered, which is only a summary, mind you, but there's no need to go through various sections and subsections to discuss this topic. The question is, would Meghan Markle risk it all, her sole solid connection to the British royal family, being her children, because Harry could divorce her, by proceeding with a surrogacy agreement behind the royal family's back? Because I don't think there is any universe where they would not only be okay with this, but cover it up for her, where they would endanger their own tradition and heritage. I mean, for what? For Meghan? It's not like Harry was the heir to the throne. It's not like his children were the end all and be all when it comes to the continuation, the survival of the monarchy. So I don't see why they would have bent over backwards to help her pull off the con that a lot of people seem to believe she has pulled off. To me, someone like Meghan places a lot of value on something like that. Why else do you think her children are prince and princess when they could have easily not been? Meghan cares a lot about these things. And that is something I take into consideration when thinking about whether she would risk it all and proceed with a surrogacy agreement. Things could leak, names could have been divulged, and Meghan and Harry could have been outed. And so personally, I think the odds would have been incredibly against them when it comes to pulling this con off successfully. I know there are a lot of photos, and some people say even videos out there, which prove that her pregnancy in the UK was a sham. It was a moon bump. However, I want people to remember that we also live in the era of Photoshop and AI. And I've personally seen a few photos that have been clearly doctored where her bump was flattened, because I saw the original photo on Getty Images. I'm not saying that every suspicious photo has been photoshopped, but it's worth bearing in mind, just to be fair. And that's it. As always, let me know what you think. Someone disagreeing with your opinion doesn't mean that they're insulting you, or they hate you, or they're calling you a liar or an idiot. They are simply disagreeing. So let's keep things civil, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.